So, just taking a little bit of time to reflect today with my cup of tea. I've given myself permission to just pause and reflect and really become aware of these patterns and cycles that I am consciously breaking free from, and why I've had to cut out certain people, and certain people have actually just fallen away. They've been removed for me by the hand of God. And I really believe they have been removed for my higher self. I'm trusting with every part of my being that having these people in my life was really not good for my growth and for my mental health. And so these cycles and these patterns that I have found myself in have been a lot, well, I would say actually all of them have been to do with toxic relationship dynamics. And now this is where it can be easy to fall into the trap of thinking that there's something wrong, inherently wrong with me. And I have had to reflect on these cycles and why have I been going through these such difficult abusive cycles in my life, and why I've now consciously cut these cords and cut these people out of my life. And so it can be very easy to fall into the trap of thinking that there is something wrong with us. And I need you to listen, really listen, because this is important. First of all, you're going to need to really be very, very honest and do a review process with these cycles and with these relationships. Now, these are probably going to be quite karmic relationships, and it could be very possible for you to feel that there's just something wrong with me. Why am I finding myself in all of these really unhealthy relationship patterns? And this is why it's important to do the review process, because there are going to be things that you're going to need to take on board about yourself and about your personality as well, because it's never just a one-way thing. There's always two people in a relationship. And you're going to need to be very, very honest and call yourself out on your own bullshit about why you're experiencing these kind of cycles in your life and how you're responsible in some way for that. And that's not the same as taking on a load of guilt and feeling that there's something inherently wrong with you. But it is going to mean that you're going to need to be very honest with yourself about why you're encountering and why you've been putting up with these unhealthy relationships your whole life. And that you are responsible. I am responsible for these cycles in my life. Now, obviously the ones that we have when we're children, when we're little people who have to rely on our parents and caregivers for love and support, there's not really much that we can do about those dynamics. But I really do believe that we choose our family before we enter into this earth school, that we have chosen our family, we've chosen where we want to live, we've chosen everything. I think we've chosen everything in this lifetime for our our growth. And so even though we couldn't control those things that were happening to us when we were younger, the older we get and the more that we realize the power is in our hands to either have unhealthy relationships or to create new healthy ones. And it's gonna mean that you're gonna need to do some deep soul work. And sometimes, you might need to do that with a therapist or a professional. Actually, therapist, I don't like that word anymore, because it has it actually has some negative meanings when you start to understand the English language and the breakdown of words. That's another subject for another day, but for today, I'm just speaking about these cycles. And now I'm at this point in my life where I've cut out a lot of these dynamics and relationships that were actually completely unhealthy, and I was dimming my light just to have these people in my life that weren't even, they didn't fully accept me for who I was. I felt very alone in these relationships. I felt very misunderstood, and I felt that I was actually neglecting or exploiting myself by being in these relationship dynamics. So these patterns that I'm talking about, and why it's going to be important for you to do a little bit of soul searching. You're going to have to review these situations and really be very honest about the true nature of these, and you're going to have to take ownership of, maybe there's certain things that you were possibly not being honest about in these relationships, or holding back your truth, or possibly you weren't truly allowing yourself to open up as a true friend would, because you just couldn't move past the fact that you didn't really trust these people, that they were giving you a lot of good reasons not to trust them. It could be that there was a lot of passive aggressive comments. There was a lot of condescending comments, a lot of power dynamics where you felt like you had to block or hide a part of your truth just to stay in these unhealthy relationships. And really, you've got to take full responsibility, and I have had to take full responsibility for why am I still experiencing these kind of dynamics in my life, and what is going on in me to allow these people to take residence or to take up energy and space in my life when they're not even giving me anything back. They're actually taking from my energy. And so I've realized where I've actually been exploiting myself. I've actually been abusing myself by going back into these unhealthy dynamics time and time again, knowing, I've had this intuitive knowing that this person, hang on a minute, this person has betrayed me, this person has spoken shit about me behind my back, this person has proven that they, like to gossip and talk about other people. They've proven that they don't respect my truth or my belief system. They've proven time and time again that they are not a nurturing and supportive friend in my life. And so I've had to look at that and go, but I have literally allowed myself to be in this dynamic. And this is where you're going to need to be very honest with yourself about why you're putting up with these unhealthy patterns and dynamics. It doesn't matter whether it's a family member, a sister, a brother, a mother, a father. And I'm not saying you need to completely cut yourself off from family members, but sometimes it is necessary to take some space and take a step back. And if they have any respect for you, then they will allow you to take that space. And if they don't respect your boundaries, then, that's their issue. But you need to do what's right for yourself and your mental health. And so these patterns need to be looked at, and they need to be, you need to cut the cord from these unhealthy patterns if you're to allow yourself to blossom fully into the fullest expression of you and all of your gifts, and embrace all of your gifts and your talents, and then you can't be in these unhealthy relationship patterns. And that is where you're responsible, because allowing yourself to be in them is actually a form of self-abuse. And so you are responsible. I am responsible. I'm at a bit of a pause in my life, I suppose. I know I'm entering into a new chapter. I know that there are gifts and things that I am determined to share with the world and to bring to life, because I know that they're going to help other people as well. And I know that I've been through a lot. I've been in training pretty much all my life. And I know that I've got some really valuable healing tools and experiences that are going to help other people. But for as long as I'm in those unhealthy cycles and patterns that are making me self-doubt, question myself, these gaslighting dynamics where you actually start to question your own reality. Is it me? Am I the one who is toxic, or did I imagine that they've just done all of that stuff to me? You're really going to have to be very honest with yourself about that. And there is possibly things that you may have done that weren't. Okay, so I'm going to open up a little bit here, and I'm going to speak about this, these very recent people that I've had to cut out of my life. And they were old friends that I've known my whole life, pretty much. Well, one of them, my whole life, and the other one since I was in my early teens. Actually, just before my early teens, we became friends. And funnily enough, how we became friends was she was being really badly bullied in school, and I stuck up for her and had her back, and we became really, really pretty much best friends after that. And we had a beautiful relationship in my teenage years. We were like sisters. We pretty much lived in each other's houses, spent all our summers and weekends together, told each other everything. And then you know, life happened and we kind of went our separate ways for a minute. And then we'd always sort of bump into each other and we'd be like, yeah, we should reconnect and we should get together again. And about 10 years ago, we reconnected. And, you know, for a minute, it felt really nice again because it's somebody that knows you inside out and it's somebody that you can laugh about old times with. And then I started to feel that, you know, she was kind of using me, to be honest. It would always be that she had some sort of financial thing going on and she, you know, needed a loan or she needed this or she needed a lift somewhere and I showed up. And then she had a new little baby and I was helping out when I could with, you know, if she wanted to go out for a night out. She didn't really have a lot of support from her partner, and so I would look after her little baba when she'd go out. I would, when she got a job, I looked after her little baba again, to help her out. And then I was going through a lot of stuff myself at that time. I was in a really difficult relationship at that time, and I just needed to figure out some stuff that I was working through. And then really sadly, actually, I lost my little cat who was like my little soulmate, and I found her on the road. It was really, really devastating. It was actually, it really traumatized me. I felt like I had lost a member of my family, and it brought up all of this grief. And she was asking me at that time, could I help out with her little one? And I just needed to take some time out, and I explained to her about my cat and that I was in grief and I just needed a few days. And I just noticed after that she stopped completely, cut off any kind of contact with me. And she was organising nights out, but I wouldn't be invited. And almost overnight, it was like she completely cut me off. And then it turns out that I moved away. Like I said, I was in a really difficult relationship at that time as well, and was going through a lot of my own stuff with that. And so we kind of lost touch again, and then bumped into each other actually at a funeral. And we got chatting, and, you know, she was saying, I'd love to catch up. I'd love to. So we exchanged numbers again, and a part of me was kind of doubting, I suppose, what I had been feeling before. I was thinking maybe she felt that I shut her out or something. And so I thought, yeah, you know, let's meet up. And we started to, you know, meet up a couple of times, and she would kind of just drop these comments. Basically, we have very different opinions and viewpoints on basically everything that's happened over the last couple of years. Now, I never had any judgment towards her. She went and did what she had to do. I'm trying not to say too much about this because it's another sort of tender subject, but basically she would kind of drop in these comments knowing what my stance was, okay, about the whole thing to do with let's just say medical interventions off the back of this so-called, let's say, deadly, infectious virus that was going around. She would drop these comments and these kind of remarks, condescending remarks, indirectly at me, but not completely directly at me, because I never really spoke to her directly about what I believed. And sometimes it would come up in the conversation, and I would, I would say how I felt, but there was never any judgment towards her. I would never ever be judging her or putting her down in what she felt that was the right thing for her to do. But it would always be coming from her, and I would constantly be kind of like, was that directed at me? But it was kind of passive aggressive, let's say. Anyways, it came up. It was starting to feel a little bit off, let's just say, and I was starting to wonder: is this a friendship that I should be giving my energy to? I'm not feeling so good after I've met up with her. I'm starting to doubt myself and feel just a little bit of doubt about this friendship. And so I had asked for clarity, and we met up just after New Year. And again, her energy was really off that day. She was certain things that I was saying, she would be very just like, yeah, or very blunt in her answer to me. It was like she was there, but she wasn't really present with me. And something came up about, let's say, a cultural thing that's going on in society, and she spoke openly about what she felt about it, and I started to speak about what I felt about it, and she immediately got very, what's the word? Interrogational is the only word I can think of, and started to ask where I was getting my information. And I told her it was actually coming from one of the parents in the schools. So it was pretty direct information, and I said that I had gotten this information from other sources. I don't want to talk too much about what this was to do with, but it was to do with, let's just say, the gender issue. So she immediately started to almost interrogate me and pretty much say that where I was getting my sources wasn't, really reliable, and that basically I felt like she was trying to gaslight me and my belief system and where I was getting my information from. And so I stood strong, and I was saying, well, it's not only from that source. I have lots of different sources of where I'm getting this information from. And she pretty much started to become very nasty and let's just say, yeah, interrogational, like just, yeah, I can't think of another word just at the moment, but I couldn't actually believe what I was witnessing. It was like she had turned into this completely blank and condescending narcissist. I that's the only word I can think of. And so, I was trying to kind of calm myself down in that situation. I was literally almost shaking at this time. And I realized, wow, I knew in my head at that minute that we weren't going to be going for coffee again. But I didn't want to leave it after all these years in that kind of horrible situation. So I was trying to just calm it down and just say, come on, like, it's okay. We've got difference. We both feel very differently about this. But she pretty much just, and I did actually say to her that I felt that she was gaslighting me and trying to make out that I was some sort of conspiracy theorist, and that my sources of information weren't reliable. And she was just, at this stage, there was no getting through to her, and she was, she was just, there was no, it was like she was just completely in her own defense. And there was no need to be defensive, because I wasn't trying to judge her for what she felt, but I also was trying to say that I have to speak my truth about what I feel as well about these things. But anyway, she got up and she just said, yeah, this is, I'm really disappointed in you. And I said, well, I'm also disappointed in you that you wouldn't listen to me. Like she literally wouldn't let me speak. And she got up and walked away. And so I just sat there for a minute and I just thought, wow, okay, that clarity that I was looking for has definitely come back. But I had to really, first of all, I had to gather myself and heal after that, because it was a really it was a really not a very nice situation, let's say. I felt that she was almost attacking me mentally. And so afterwards I had to do a little review process and think honestly, okay, what part did I have to play in that? And I realized, that the part that I had to play in that was that I was given my energy and time not fully. I wasn't fully letting down my guard, because I felt that I couldn't let down my guard, because I didn't feel that I could trust her really from these past situations and the way that the things that she had been saying since we had sort of reconnected. So I obviously had my guard up around me, and I think she could obviously pick up on that. And I had sort of almost taken a step back at certain times as well. And so basically the point I'm trying to make is I needed to take responsibility and say, well, I was not fully being a good friend either, by sort of only being half there and not really being honest enough to just say, look, I don't know if that's a conversation we could have had, but maybe just taking the decision myself to just completely stop it while I had those feelings. And so sometimes continuing on in those kind of dynamics that's where we are abusing ourselves. And we need to look at those patterns very honestly and say, are we going to allow ourselves to keep putting ourselves through those unhealthy situations? Or are we going to take back the reins and say, no, I deserve better in my friendships. I want to give better. I want to really be a better friend myself. But when we're in those kind of dynamics, we can't even be everything that we're meant to be. We're not ourselves in full bloom. I know that I've probably rambled off a lot today, but I just wanted to say that it's okay to take a little pause, and that when you cut off these friendships and let these friendships go, you're probably going to feel a sense of loneliness. You're going to feel probably a little bit of grief, and you've got to just really feel those, okay? And really feel them. Don't push them away. Allow them to come up to the surface, because that is when you're making the subconscious conscious, and you're saying, okay, I am sad that friendship couldn't go ahead, but I would just say it's like a mismatch of energy, and you can't take those unhealthy patterns with you. You can't take those toxic situations with you and expect yourself to fully bloom into everything that you could possibly be. I know that I went off into a few tangents, but I'm going to be talking a little bit more about these patterns and about these breaking free from these old cycles. And really, it's to do with us. We're fully responsible for those cycles. We're fully responsible for who we allow into our energy space, who we give our time and energy to. And you have to trust that when you let those go, there's new, more aligned relationships and friendships coming into your life. And that you really have to be fully conscious when you're breaking free from those patterns, that they are it's happening for your highest good, and that it's not gonna last forever, that you're gonna feel this kind of loneliness. It's just a season, but breaking free is going to allow you to become the fullest expression of yourself. And so I'd love to know in the comments, like, are you resonating with any of this? Are you at a time where you're about to take that next step, but you're kind of looking back as well, and you're reflecting on some of these unhealthy cycles that you're breaking free from? I'd really love to hear. And I'd love to start building a community of support and love, and a place where we can just feel open to express whatever it is that we're going through. So I would love to hear where you're from, what you've been moving through, and what you have realized when you're breaking free from these cycles. Does it make you feel empowered, or does it make you feel a little bit sad that you're leaving these relationships behind? I promise, though, that there is something beautiful and new on the horizon that you can't even see yet. And I promise that when you fully allow these unhealthy patterns and dynamics to fall away and to break away, that you're making space energetically for something beautiful and brand new, and the best is yet to come. And so, yeah, I know this was probably long-winded, and I went off rambling as I do sometimes, but yeah, I just want to let you know that something beautiful is on the horizon. I love you all.